if I learn something in that day and I know that it's going to help move us forward, I'm doing a disservice to myself, to my team, and to my clients if I don't instantly implement. I have very much a ready, fire, aim mentality. And it's just because I think partly I'm super competitive growing up in the martial arts industry, right? Competing in martial arts competitions. But to me, it's like, man, if I can get somewhere in 10 minutes as opposed to waiting 10 weeks, let me just do it now, right? The quote is, why put off tomorrow what can get done today?
Welcome to the 91 Day Success Podcast. You always hear me talk about how much I love the guests that are coming on, but today is a special day because I've got Cris Rodriguez with me. And Cris and I met, I don't remember when we met, but I was introduced to Cris a little over a year ago when she was up on stage talking at an event that I was at through Seven Figure Agency. And her message just resonated with me, and I've had the opportunity to talk to her a number of times since then. And today I'm so excited to be able to talk to Cris and have her share a little bit about her business, what she does, some of her success. But particularly, we're going to talk today about one of Chris's, what I call her superpowers, and that's speed to implementation. Cris has taught me so much about being quick to implement and what it means for your business, and I'm so looking forward to unpacking that with Cris today. But Cris, before we jump into all that, can you give everybody kind of the elevator pitch, the short version of who you are, and tell us a little bit about your business?
Yeah, for sure. So I've been an entrepreneur for the last decade. I own a jiu-jitsu and MMA academy in Tampa, Florida called Gracie Pack MMA. It's really where my entrepreneurial journey started, if you don't count the DJ business that I had when I was in high school. I spent the last 10 years building a business based off of a passion that I've had since I was very young, and have been able to build a really well-oiled machine, which has allowed me to shift my focus into Grow Pro agency. So when I first started the martial arts school, it's hot in Florida, right? Jonathan, you're in Florida right now. You're
Yep,
here because you
absolutely.
wanted some warm weather. And the thought of putting out road signs, putting rack cards in businesses, firing parking lots in the 100-degree weather seemed miserable as a way to market my martial arts school. And I was like, you know what? I'd rather stay in my air-conditioned office and few strokes of the keys and launch some digital ads. We grew very, very quickly, hit a $500,000 business in our third year of being open. And in the martial arts industry, most schools are doing about 10,000 MRR. So like 6 figures is a big deal, as an annual revenue. And we grew so quickly due to online marketing, Google ads, Facebook ads. And, that was the golden days of being able to boost a post for $20 and sell, 50 paid trials. So people saw the success that we were having, and they started asking, how are you doing it? And my answer was digital marketing. So when you get enough people asking you a question, because they're having a problem, usually that's a sign that maybe a business can be born. So I started teaching an 8-week marketing mastermind where we focused 4 weeks on Facebook, 2 weeks on Instagram, and 2 weeks on Google. I have my degree in education. I love teaching. I think it's one of my superpowers. And the martial arts school was really in a place where I could start offering this. So I was speaking at an event, super cool moment in my life. And at the end of my presentation, I pitched the 8-week marketing mastermind. And I said, there's only 30 spots available. And I got bomb rushed on stage, and people were literally throwing their credit cards at me. It was a really cool experience. And after I taught that first session at the end of the 8 weeks, school owner said, Cris, this was amazing. I learned so much, but I don't want to do this. This is too much work. This isn't why I'll open my martial arts school. Will you just do it for me? And he said, no, I'm just teaching. I really love that aspect. And then I did another session. Same thing happened at the end of the 8 weeks. And my wife was finally like, what are you doing? You got people throwing money at you. So I started with 10 clients and instantly realized that I just bought myself a job. And, I recognized that if this was going to go anywhere, I needed to start building a team. So I started building a remote team, got the agency up to around 30,000. And then COVID hit, lost 30% of our clientele because they're martial arts schools. Martial arts schools were shut down. And it was at this time that I started looking for a mentor. So I only ever really had a mentor for the martial arts school, didn't have a mentor for the agency. And, business skills are business skills, but, there's a reason why I have a health coach. There's a reason why I have a finance coach. And that's when I found Josh Nelson, which is how we had the opportunity to meet. So I hopped on with Seven Figure Agency and I went all in. I did their on ramp program in 3 days. Basically, went to my wife. It was like a 3-day weekend. And I said, look, got to do something. I need 3 days of you just letting me focus on work. And I went through all of the videos. Pretty sure I was the fastest person to ever get through on ramp. And we were one of those businesses that ended up exploding after COVID because the EIDL loans started coming in and people realized all the other forms of marketing are gone. The only thing we really can do is digital marketing. So that was back in 2020, obviously when COVID hit, and now we're at about 240,000 MRR. We have 347 clients, and I went from 4 remote team members to 25 in-person team members, which they're all out there right now. I don't know if that was the elevator pitch, but that's what.
That was perfect, Chris. That was absolutely perfect because I knew a lot of that story from what you shared, and one of the things that just so impressed me is that again you're one of those unique business people that was able to take success in one area in the martial arts and in a passion, which I absolutely love that you started in a passion of yours. So many business people are like, well, I'll do this because it'll make me money, or I'll do this. I love that you started with one of your passions. You made it a profitable business, and then you started another one because the opportunity came in. And I've got to know you well enough. I know that's also a passion of yours, and the quality that you do. I think it's a tremendous story, and I really appreciate how you share how you went through that. Kudos, by the way. I know not everybody's familiar with the whole on-ramp process at Seven Figure, but to go through that in 3 days, I went through it in like a month and thought I was absolutely cranking. So to do it in 3 days is, absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
But yeah, no, great story, and congratulations on being at nearly $250,000 in monthly recurring revenue. That's just, that's another level when it comes to digital marketing agencies. As you and I know, you first get the pitches about how to become a 6-figure agency and then become a 7-figure agency. And most of everything stops at that point in time because so few hit that. And the fact that you're well on your way to getting to that 8-figure, I'm sure you've got the T-shirt that I'm hoping to get. Building an 8-figure agency.
Exactly.
That's so amazing, so amazing.
It's interesting to kind of break down the 3 levels there. In order for me to get to 6 figures, I just needed people. In order to get to 7 figures, I needed good people. And what I'm realizing is that in order to get to 8 figures, I need a team of great people. And it's just been something that I've really been thinking about. And, the issues that you deal with on your way to 8 figures are much different than the issues that you're dealing with on your way to 7 figures. I just had a call with Tony Ricketts, who's in our mastermind. And, a lot of the conversation was all about HR stuff, because when you're working your way to 6 figures, like HR, I don't need an HR department. I am the HR department. When you start having 25 people, 25 different personalities, 25 different needs, 25 different skill sets, the HR department is top mind for sure.
No, and we're in the midst of learning that ourselves, having just got into the 7-figure MRR side late last year. Thank you, by the way. Large thanks to you for a lot of the coaching you've provided and the encouragement. But yeah, we're noticing the same thing. It's a different ball game at that point, and I'm sure as we grow, we're going to see that ball game continue to change as we grow. That reminds me, Chris. One of the things that you had shared a while back that really touched me was you talked about building a dream that was so big that you could fit the dreams of everybody you lead inside that. Talk to me a little bit about how do you go about inspiring your team to buy into that dream and work towards it with you. You've obviously done that to get to the level you're at, and it sounds like you're realizing you need to do even more of that. But how do you do that? Because that's not an easy task.
Yeah, I think when you get out of the role of having to take care of your clients, it allows you to step into the role of now taking care of your people, right? And Richard Branson has the famous quote, you take care of your team and your team takes care of your clients. I do zero fulfillment work at all, and there's 2 to 3 on the accountability chart kind of departments before somebody would come to me, which really allows me to focus on building the culture here at GrowPro. It's one of my key responsibilities is to protect that culture at all costs. The thing about the quote about building a dream so big that everybody else's dream can fit in it, it's from Ed Milet. And when I read that, it hit me so hard, and it made me question if I was dreaming big enough. And one of the things that really helped me on understanding the importance of caring for your team and helping them accomplish what they want to accomplish in their personal life was because I was such a bad boss when I was building my martial arts school. I was a dictator. We'd be in meetings, and all you're doing is hearing me talk. It was my ideas. And I knew that, one of the things that is a big regret of mine is I have 2 stepsons, Darian and Nate. Darian actually works here as my integrator here at GoPro. He's 23. And Nate, yesterday actually had his final firefighter class. He graduates next week. But I was
Very
such
cool.
a bad boss. Both of them worked at the martial arts school that neither of them wanted to take over the business. I think that's like as a parent, like that's like our hope and our want and our wish is to build this family business that, your kids can take over and it leaves a legacy. And I was such a bad boss that they wanted nothing to do with it. And I knew that with GrowPro, I had to do things differently. And one of the biggest lessons that my mentor, Mike Metzger, taught me was it has to be fun. And I know that sounds so simple and so ridiculous, but I was so focused on the numbers and we got to get better and we have to level up that it wasn't fun for anybody anymore. And, I go and visit my mentor. He's in Orlando and he's sitting back. He's got his feet up on the desk like this and he's joking around and they just have such a great time there. And when people are having fun and they know that they're being cared for, they want to work harder for you. So one of the things that I recognized is being in the martial arts means we're more than likely not going to be able to hit 8 figures if we solely stay in this niche. And, you know, lifestyle wise and finance wise, like, really don't need to be making more than I am. So now it's about taking care of the people that help me get to where I'm. And in the martial arts industry, there's only 15,000 martial arts schools in the United States. And that doesn't even mean that's 15,000 viable, potential clients. Some of them might be teaching out of their garage. So in order for us and for me to offer them more, we have to go into other verticals. So we actually just signed on our very first dance client. They launched today, $2.10 cost per lead. It was like, guys, we're throwing a party,
No
because
doubt.
we can get a great case study out of this. This is gonna, really help us break into that. So I think it's so important. I'm just at a place in my life where I had people help me get here. My mentors, they guided me, they coached me, and now that's really my sole focus is helping my team. And I think one of the big mistakes that bosses or managers make is that they don't take an interest in the personal life of their team members, and that's something that I really pride myself on. I ask my team, like, what are the goals? Where do you want to be at the end of the year? And if that eventually means you outgrow GrowPro, well, one of our core values is continuous growth. We continuously grow for the company, the client, and the seller. And if that means you eventually do that, I'm not going to be upset about that, right? Because who wants somebody on the team that doesn't want to be here, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that answered the question. Lots of kind of, different aspects of why that's a big focus for me right now.
Oh, absolutely golden shares, Chris. You're adding so much tremendous value here, and I'm so grateful. And I know our viewers will be too. Most of our viewers are entrepreneurs and business people, and the things you're sharing are just fantastic. So it's so great. We can read all this in a book, and we can watch it in a pod or listen in a podcast or watch a YouTube video. But to hear you sharing your story and where that's come from, it makes it resonate. It makes it seem so much more plausible. So thank you so much for that. I'm really just amazingly grateful.
Absolutely.
That brings me to the next thing. And Chris, one of the things that, boy, when I first saw you on stage and then started hearing some of the things about you, one of the first things that I noticed was that you were the person that had speed to implementation down pat. You talked about how you went through the onboarding so fast with Seven Figure. And I remember at one of the first events that I think it was the second intensive I was at, you literally were implementing things from the intensive that we'd literally been taught in the last 30 minutes. Tell me a little bit and share, if you would, a little bit. How did you develop that ability and that passion to do that? And what has that meant for your business and your team?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it started here to birth. I was about 3 weeks early. I was like, get me out of here, mom. I want to come out. I do think that the type of personality people have does play a role into it. I'm very much an A type personality. But, in terms of conferences and events, like just experience, there were plenty of times, going to martial arts conferences where, you'd go and, some of the best networking happens at the bar at night, right? Everybody says that, and it is true. But for me, I've always gotten the most out of instantly and immediately doing whatever was taught to me because it's fresh. It's like when a new client signs up, they're the most excited right then and there. And I could, stay late at the restaurant. I could hang out at the bar, and I'm sure great conversations would occur out of it. But if I learned something in that day and I know that it's going to help move us forward, I'm doing a disservice to myself, to my team, and to my clients if I don't instantly implement. I have very much a ready, fire, aim mentality, and it's just because I think partly I'm super competitive growing up in the martial arts industry, right? Competing in martial arts competitions. But to me, it's like, man, if I can get somewhere in 10 minutes as opposed to waiting 10 weeks, let me just do it now, right? The quote is, why put off tomorrow what can get done today? And I think, especially with events and conferences, you've cleared out your calendar to be there, right? Like there's nothing else going on. And I know when I get home, life's going to get in the way. I know my calendar's already full when I get home because I'm making up for what I missed while I was gone. And I don't want to have that anxiety and overwhelm when I get home because I got to do what's on my calendar on top of adding in everything that I learned. One of the things that also allows me to do this, and I always get frustrated when people don't share the full situation, is I have help. I can be listening to Josh on stage and he says, you need to do XYZ, and I can send a Slack message to my personal assistant and say, I need you to prioritize X, Y, and Z. And I think that's important.
No, great share, and I really appreciate that. Yeah, that's amazing. Recently, you actually, and I've seen you do this multiple times, but recently you did this with providing concierge level service on lead generation to your customers. And I know, again, that's something we learned at a conference we were both at, and I will readily admit I'm in the process of going through the materials, and I'm already seeing that Cris has implemented this and you're bringing value to your clients. And I was so impressed with that. Can you share just a little bit with us about that service? Because I know that's something that, at least from what I understand, has added a tremendous amount of value to your clients by you implementing it. Can you share a little bit about that concierge service?
Yeah, 100%. It's something that our clients have been asking us to do for almost 3 years now, 2 to 3 years. So far that even clients were reaching out to account reps and saying, hey, can I pay you under the table to follow up with my leads? And the reason why we didn't pull the trigger on it is because we just didn't have the space. So we started in an office smaller than this. There were four of us, like our chairs would hit each other when we slid back. It was a co-working space, and which helped to keep expenses down. But when I transitioned from that remote to in person and really started setting some big goals, I knew we needed more space. So I bought an office building that has two suites. There's a chiropractor in one, and the other side is 1,500 square feet. And we moved into there. And in under a year, we went from like four of us to 16 of us in 1,500
Wow.
square feet with one bathroom. That was fun. And we just simply did not have the space to build out a call center. Our model is in person, which is very different than the majority of agencies out there. I realized that I was a much better in person boss than I was a remote boss. It's also a unique selling point that we can use in our sales process because all of our competitors are leveraging GAs and using remote services. I truly believe that it gives you an edge on customer service and training employees when you're right next to each other as opposed to doing training via Zooms. So there's a lot of reasons, but I also spend a lot of money on paper towels and toilet paper and coffee and snacks and stuff like that. So we were in that 1,500 square foot building, and I had just bought it, and then the building right next door went up for sale, and it had a 4,000 square foot spot and a 2,000 square foot spot. There was a pediatrics office in the 2,000 square foot spot. So I bought that building right next door, and we moved in July of last year. First thing I did was hire a contractor, and we built out a call center because it had a conference room. It has 11 offices around the perimeter and then a really big open area. So in that really big open area, we boxed off one of the corners and created a call center. So the reason, why I didn't ready fire in is we just didn't have the space, and I'm not willing to go to a remote culture. I think, a lot changes. Whether you argue good or better, I'm very specific on wanting to be in person. So we launched it in July, and right when we moved in, about 2 weeks later, the biggest martial arts conference of the year was happening in Las Vegas. It's called the Martial Arts Super Show. I had 5 speaking spots, and we also had a 20 by 10 booth. I brought four of my team members out with me. This was a huge trip. We probably invested close to $30,000 to get everybody out there and get the booth set up and all that. And this is when we launched the concierge program. So we only took 20 people. We sold out like the first day, and then we came home, and it was time to, fulfill our promise. One of the things about concierge that you have to understand is you're basically building a business within a business. It's a very different model. I equate it to a martial arts school. where there's a lot of martial arts schools that teach evening programs because everybody's at work during the day and the kids are at school. So, like, your classes start at 4 p.m. But there's a lot of martial arts schools that are looking to leverage the daytime period because you're paying rent for it and your place is empty. So there's lots of schools that decide to offer after school pickup programs where you hop in the 15 passenger van, you drive to the school, you pick up the kids, and you're basically a glorified babysitter, is what it is. But it's a business within a business. You have a daycare within a martial arts school. And I kind of equate having a call center inside of a digital marketing agency very similar. It's a business within a business. So I joined Chris Johnstone's concierge mastermind, and I went through his like 6 or 8 week program. And it was nice to have somebody to lean on to ask questions, but our models were very different. He works with realtors and mortgage brokers, where basically clients were giving the agent a list of leads that they had, and they do a lot of outbound package calling, right? Pay us X amount, and we'll make 1,000 calls for you. That's not really what our industry needs. Our industry needs, hey, you just generated a lead. I need somebody to pick up the phone and call that lead. And that's what our program does. And, I mean, imagine, sitting at your desk and randomly, every time you get a notification, you got to go make a phone call. And it's just a very different model. When we started, you have to start with 2 agents. You have to hire 2 people because if one person calls out, guess what? The leads still have to be followed up with. It's like the after school program. If one of my drivers called in sick, guess who's driving the van? It's me, right? It took us about 4 months to really build an efficient model. And what we struggled the most with was the tech stack. What technology are we going to use in order for this to get great results for our clients, but also be super efficient for the agents? And we had to use High Level because that's the platform that all of our clients are on. And we recognized very quickly some of the challenges with solely using High Level. It's, again, it took about 4 months for us to figure that out, set up workflows, power dialers. So what our offer is we will follow up with a lead that is generated on Facebook or through a website or through a Google form between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. and we will Eastern time, and we will follow up within 5 minutes. We will continue following up for another 7 times. There was a Harvard business study that came out a few years ago on lead response generation, and they found that the 7th touch point is the sweet spot to be able to book. And I mean, think of your own clients, right? What mostly happens in a business is they get a lead. Oh, cool. They call the lead doesn't pick up, and then that lead goes into the black hole of all of the other thousands of leads that have been generated. And it's because owners and employees are wearing a lot of hats. And, oh, did I call that lead twice already? Did I text them yet? Did I leave a voicemail? How many emails have they gotten? It's a lot to keep up with. So also building out that model of what was the ideal follow-up looking like took some time. Ideally for us, we wanted to be able to call the lead twice in one day. But if an agent has 20 accounts, and let's say out of those 20 accounts you generated 80 leads that day, that's 160 phone calls just for those leads in day one. That doesn't include all the follow-up you have to do for the leads that came in the previous weeks. So that wasn't scalable for us. And, I know there's a lot of call center software out there, but we really needed to make it work with High Level. So the biggest struggle for us was figuring out that tech stack and figuring out the best rhythm of reaching out to the leads without being overly aggressive. I remember throughout this process, my wife and I wanted to get a HELOC, a home equity line of credit on our house, in case a deal came through. We would have that ready to go. Well, I went online, and I think I went to Lending Tree, and I put my information in. And what a mistake that was, because I was getting, this is not an exaggeration, over 20 phone calls a day from all of these different brokers that were trying to, and I would never do a deal with lending because, and they followed up for almost 60 days. Like, and it got to the point where I finally was picking up and said, take me off your call list. Well, they have all of these different agents, so and they all have different phone numbers. So you might get off of one agent's call list, but you're not off of the second. And I think there's a fine balance in, making sure you're not aggressively following up because otherwise you're going to.
Great share, and again, I so appreciate your stories. It makes everything really resonate, Chris. That's awesome. As we look forward, and as you look forward, one of the things I love to ask is, you're deep in the digital marketing space, as are a lot of the people that we know. What things do you see coming on the digital marketing horizon? I don't know how good your crystal ball is, or if you even have one, but I always love to ask. Do you see anything that you think is worth talking about or mentioning, or do you see, as my mentor, one of my mentors, that tells me all the time, the vehicle changes but nothing else does. He used to sell billboards. He's now retired, and he goes, what you do in digital marketing really isn't any different than when I sold billboards. He goes, yes, I know it's different technology, but it's the same thing. Where do you stand on that, and do you see anything on the horizon that you think business owners should be paying attention to as it relates to digital marketing?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, we got to talk about AI, but we'll hold off on that in a second. I think, what we are moving more towards year after year are businesses that want to consolidate the amount of companies that they're working with, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do I really want to have the website company, which is different than the CRM company, which is different than the lead follow-up company, which is different than the lead generation company? I think a lot of business owners are looking for end-to-end services. And I think that could be great for some businesses because it opens up other verticals that they can go into. But I think it can also be, detrimental if they don't have the appropriate skill set to be able to deliver. If you've got an agency that's operating at 40% and now you want to add concierge, well, how great are you going to be at concierge? When people ask me, should I add this in? Like, of course, the initial response seems like, oh, it's a no-brainer. It's a need that my clients have. We're generating the leads. We know they're not following up with them because we can see it in high level.
Right.
Or if they are following up, we're listening to the phone call and it's awful. We know that it's something they need. But if your agency doesn't have the foundational elements that it needs, this isn't just going to magically make everything, better overnight. So I think users, clients are really looking for those end-to-end services, but you have to be smart about, implementing them. I've never been a fan of white label, never used a white label company with the exception of High Level, which is, slightly different than hiring a company to run your ads for your clients.
Absolutely.
But I think people are so quick to pull that trigger because they know, oh, my client needs this. I can't do it. I don't have the skill set. So let me just hire out a white label. Well, your margins are very small. And now your business's reputation is on the line on whether or not this other company can deliver. And for me, like if I see, man, there really is a need in my company, there was never a thought that I'm just going to outsource this to a call center for my concierge program. It was, I'm going to develop the skills that I need enough so that I can train other people so that they can do this in-house. So I think end-to-end services, we're going to continue to see that in the future. And, obviously you've got AI that's been around for a minute, but it hasn't been around to the public. And I'm sure
Yes.
any agency user on here has, been toying around in some fashion with Chat GPT. I actually did a webinar for our martial arts clients on all of the different ways that they can use it in their school. And I mean, jaws were just, hitting the ground. There are, I think, some people that are really scared of it. And, in life, you got two options, like learn how to leverage it or be scared of it. And I think
Mm-hmm.
the agencies that are going to be open to learning how to leverage it, it's not sentient yet, so I don't think it's putting us out of a job, but I do think you need to train your team on how to leverage it. I did a training for my team on Chat GPT, and one of the team members said, like, I'm really scared this is going to take my job. And it's like, well, make sure you're leveling up your skill set. And if you know how to use it, you're now more efficient, you're now more valuable as well. So it can't be something, that you ignore. I think how there was a lot of transfer of wealth that occurred during COVID. I believe there's going to be another huge transfer of wealth with AI, and we're obviously just seeing the tip of the iceberg, which is why it's so important that you surround yourself with people that are on the cutting edge, right? Josh was 7 figures, he brought in somebody to do a webinar for us. I'm now part of that guy's group, but I'm looking to sign up for his program as well. So it's here, and I don't think we should be, scared of it, because what's that going to do, right? I think we need to learn how to leverage it and help us make us, more efficient. And for me, what I'm so excited about is that I can teach it. One of the coolest things is we have a process called the 4 steps of selling that we teach our clients. Like, let's say you're doing a stranger danger community event at your martial arts school. And you got this list of leads that you got to pick up the phone and call. We give them a framework, because who wants to make the phone call in the first place? At least makes the phone call better if you give them a framework. And the framework is the reason why you're calling. You sell it and paint the picture of why it's so amazing. You give them some form of urgency and scarcity with a call to action, and then you close it. And I went into Chat GPT and I said, this is our closing system. It's called the 4 steps of selling. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. I taught it. And then I said, I want you to write me a script for the Stranger Danger community event. And I think that that was one of the things I was really excited about, is how can we use this to personalize our own stuff that we're doing in our agency. And, I'm a total noob. I'd say I was a white belt in AI, but I don't even know if I tied the white belt on, per se. But, one of our core values at Growth Room is continuous growth. We continually grow for the company, the client, and self. And being the visionary of the company, R&D is one of my main roles and responsibilities. And you're going to get left behind if it's not front of mind.
No, I agree with you. I think every change brings apart or brings with it opportunity. And I think
Mhm.
that is, as an entrepreneur like you, that's one of the things I immediately look at is, okay, no one really loves change. We like getting comfortable, but at the same point, change brings opportunity. And I know I, for one, as an entrepreneur, I love opportunity. And so it's a very exciting time. And I commend you on being open and taking a look at it. You, like I, have seen two probably very different perspectives within our marketing industry, those that are embracing it and saying, hey, this is a tool, and those that are saying, no, don't touch it, you're gonna get slapped essentially for it if you do. And I just I think it's awesome. Again, this equals opportunity. What does it look like? I can't tell you today any more than you can, but it's opportunity one way or the other. So
Yeah, I taught that webinar, and at the end, everybody was like, you should have charged for this. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'm putting a query prompt course out here in the future. But like you
yeah, I
said,
think that's going to be
there is
big.
opportunity.
No, absolutely. I was just talking to my 15-year-old son about that. He loves all the technology, and he loves ChatGPT. And I'm like, hey, if you can learn how to write these queries and be a prompt engineer or prompt specialist, there's real opportunity here. So absolutely. Well,
Awesome.
Cris, one of the other things, and the name of the podcast is the 91 Day Success Podcast. And we do that for a reason, because I love to talk to entrepreneurs and successful business people like yourself and say, hey, as we look at the economy, there's a lot of people that look at the next couple of years and are thinking, hey, more change is coming. And I know some people in that process are thinking about starting a side gig, maybe leaving their job and starting their own thing, maybe being worried about getting laid off and going, where do I start? And as an experienced business person, Cris, if I came to you and said, proverbially, of course, here's $1,000, you've got your car, you've got your house, you've got a laptop and high speed internet. What are you going to do in the first 91 days to build a business that maybe gets to the point, maybe a goal of generating $10,000 in revenue a month. What, as a business owner, what might you do? What could you share with the audience that you might say, hey, if I had 3 months, here's how I'd get started? Any thoughts on that?
I love this question. It reminds me of the Grant Cardone TV show, where he pretends to be broke and does
Yes.
something very similar. For me, I would look at, all right, and anybody in general, what are the skill sets that you have, right? So earlier today, we talked about how I have a degree in education. I believe teaching is a superpower. I obviously also know how to run Facebook ads. So if I had $1,000 and you gave me 90 days, I would put out a course of something that I know just a little bit more than my customer avatar knows. I think that there's this misconception that you need to be a guru or an expert. And I'll use martial arts as an example. We have instructors that aren't black belts. So in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, there's 5 belt ranks: white, blue, purple, brown, black. Very different in jiu-jitsu than to other traditional martial arts like taekwondo. You can get a black belt in 3 years. Doesn't take very long. In jiu-jitsu, the average person, it takes 10 years. So
Wow.
I can have a blue belt or a purple belt teach my white belts because they know more than the white belt. So that's what I would do. I would use my phone. You said I have a laptop, so I could use my laptop camera. I'd hop on Zoom. Zoom is free for the first 40 minutes. So I would just film in 40-minute increments. I would put together some worksheets that go along with the video so we could add that as a bonus. I would include an upsell on a one-on-one coaching or maybe a 90-day coaching package that's included to help them take the next step. And I take the $1,000. I haven't spent anything because Zoom is free, right? I'd take the $1,000, probably could even just use a Facebook group to host the course because that is free. If I wanted to spend maybe $99 on Teachable or something like that to host it in there, I could. But you literally could create a group coaching course and an ongoing group coaching program with a Facebook group. It's completely free. And I'd use the money to run ads to my targeted audience. And I know in under 90 days, I could easily make $10,000 because I did that before.
Cris, I love it. I love it. Oh, thank you so much for the amazing shares today. You bring so much expertise and just professionalism to the table. I'm so grateful that I've had the opportunity to get to know you a little bit over the last year, and so grateful you took the time out of your schedule to join us today on the podcast. I know you've got a lot going on. Thank you. That's all I can say. You've been an amazing guest, and I'm just thrilled. Quick question. I know we're going to put all your links up on the screen and everything else, but if somebody's in the martial arts or in the dance arena you're expanding into and they go, man, I need to talk to Cris because she's got this together, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Facebook DM. That would be it. I actually have a love-hate relationship with Facebook Messenger, because anybody can contact you at any time. I got a message at 12:23 in the morning the other day, and it was potential business. So I didn't answer. Obviously, I was sleeping. But shoot me a Facebook message.
Awesome. Again, Cris, thank you so very much.
My pleasure.
This will probably air afterwards. I look forward to seeing you, I think, in 2 weeks. I hope you'll be in Miami. I'll see you down there. And look forward to it. Thank you again. You've been a tremendous guest, and I appreciate it greatly.
Thanks for having me, Jonathan.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us on this episode of the 91 Day Success Podcast. If you've got any interest in what Cris is doing, please reach out, follow her, learn more. She also does a lot of videos and things like that on YouTube. Make sure you follow her and learn. She is a wealth of knowledge and an amazing teacher. So make it a great day, everybody.